Hello there, Steve-Os. Welcome along to this week's episode of Steve's Movie Wrap-Up. So without further ado, let's find out what movies I've watched and reviewed this week. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap-Up, episode 85, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie you'll be reviewing in this episode is a Looney Tunes movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, is the first movie I have watched this week, and I gave it 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Looney Tunes. Every time I say Looney Tunes, it instantly transports me back to my childhood, watching all of those classic Looney Tunes cartoons on TV when I was a kid, and of course, there is the feature-length movie Looney Tunes Back in Action, starring Brendan Fraser, which I used to watch when I was a kid as well. I had that movie on repeat as a kid, if I remember rightly. Well, here we are now in 2026, and Looney Tunes are back with a new movie in the form of The Day the Earth Blew Up. Now, this movie doesn't feature a lot of the Looney Tunes cast members like Bugs Bunny or Taz. It revolves around two characters from the Looney Tunes universe in the form of Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. We are expected to get another movie later this year within the Looney Tunes universe in the form of Coyote vs. Acme, which I definitely want to see on the big screen, especially when Warner Brothers decided to shelve the film, and an independent movie studio decided to buy the film, and I feel as though the same thing has happened here with this film. An independent movie studio brought this film to distribute to other countries, because this one came out in the US mid-2025, and we have only just got this released in early 2026 in the UK. I am not expecting this film to be on the big screen for too long, and I am not expecting this to make huge box office numbers in the UK either. Does make me wonder whether it would have been better to place this on a streaming service. That being said, though, I still enjoyed watching Looney Tunes The Day the Earth Blew Up. It does have heart. It does use various types of animation throughout this 90-minute running time, and also it can be at times a little meta as well. I did have a little chuckle at some of the jokes within this film as well. Is Looney Tunes The Day the Earth Blew Up a movie I would recommend? Well, yes, I do recommend watching this, but I would say probably wait until this is out on streaming. This is a movie I would check out again, but this would also be a movie I would happily have on as background noise if I was to revisit this one again. I just hope that over here in the UK we do get Coyote versus Acme the same time as the US does, and we don't have to wait for months on end like we did with this film. Looney Tunes The Day the Earth Blew Up is available to watch in UK cinemas currently right now. Honey, don't. Next movie I watched this week is Honey Don't, which I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. Honey Don't has some well-known faces from the likes of Margaret Qualley, Aubrey Plaza, Chris Evans and Charlie Day. So what did I think of Honey Don't? Well, for the most part, I did somewhat enjoy this, but at the same time was a little confused with what is going on in this film. You see, the film clocks in with a running time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and I think it needed to be a little longer to flesh out those stories, because the plot seemed to be all over the place, and it did get a tad confusing at times. I do get the premise of the story, by the way. I just found the movie to be way too rushed and confusing at times. There was a lot of nudity and sex scenes going on as well at times. We see Chris Evans' character having sex at certain points in the film, and we also see Margaret Qualley's character, called Honey, getting off in certain scenes with Aubrey Plaza's character, who, by the way, plays a police officer in the film. Not gonna lie though, their chemistry from the moment they first met was rather hot. Their sex scenes we see in the film is at times rather steamy and raunchy to see as well. Despite the confusion, despite this feeling rather rushed, but I will say that I did get a couple of chuckles out of this film at times in terms of dialogue. Is Honey Don't a film I would revisit again? Well, yes, but I wouldn't be in any rush to rewatch it again anytime soon, though. Is Honey Don't a movie I would recommend watching? Well, if you are a fan of any of the stars in this film's previous work, then I would say give this a watch. The violence and a little bit of the gore elements we do get in this film is rather decent as well, which I do appreciate. But Honey Don't is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now. Sketch. Next movie I saw this week was Sketch, which I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. I am a sucker for a kids/family friendly movie, and safe to say this is a family friendly movie that I can get behind, as Tony Hale stars in this film titled Sketch. So what did I think of Sketch? I did have a great time with this. This film did somewhat remind me of a film that came out about a year or two ago titled If, that starred Ryan Reynolds, where they had all these imaginary characters come to life. Well, in this movie was no different, because this film is about a child's notebook full of drawings that she has drawn. It ends up falling into a river. Understandably, the pages get destroyed, but little does the kids realise that the drawings in her notebook has come to life and has begun to cause chaos and carnage in their town that they live in. I thought this was a decent movie, one that I would happily rewatch again. A fun, family-friendly movie that anyone of any age can watch. And has that heart and escapism. I did get a couple of chuckles at times as well throughout the film, and the running time does clock in at 1 hour 34 minutes as well. I also thought the design of the drawings that come to life was pretty decent as well, and the CGI wasn't too bad either. Sketch was a film I was planning to see at the cinema last year in 2025, but this film did have a limited theatrical release, so instead I decided to wait until it was released on digital in order to watch this instead, and I do still appreciate this film. Sketch is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now.
The Carpenter's Son.
Next film I watched this week was The Carpenter's Son, which I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. Look, there are things that I liked about this movie, and there is things that I didn't like about this film. Let me start off by saying that Noah Jupe, Nicolas Cage and FKA Twigs all star in this movie titled The Carpenter's Son. Now, the characters' names, I hear you ask? Well, Noah Jupe plays the boy, FKA Twigs plays the mother, and Nicolas Cage plays the carpenter. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I watched for the first time a movie called The Surfer, which also starred Nicolas Cage, and in that movie he played a character called The Surfer. So is that what Nicolas Cage does now? Does he just play nameless characters, or stars in films with nameless characters? There is another character in this film who is just called The Stranger, not to be confused with one of the strangers from the Strangers movies, of course. So, what did I think of The Carpenter's Son? Well, there was some decent imagery, there was some decent horror imagery as well. When it comes to horror in this genre, the religious horror genre, it can be a bit of a hit or miss for me. There are some religious horror movies I have enjoyed watching in the past, and there has been some that I haven't so much enjoyed. That being said, in terms of The Carpenter's Son, well, it is a rather strange movie, to be honest, and I'm not sure whether I really did dig this movie. However, though, I did think that Nicolas Cage's performance in this was somewhat decent. Is The Carpenter's Son a movie I can see me revisiting and rewatching again in the future? Likely so, but I am in no rush to see this again anytime soon though. And is The Carpenter's Son a movie I would recommend watching? If you are curious to check this one out, then I would say give it a watch, even if it is just the once and once only that you watch this film. But The Carpenter's Son is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now.
Bone Lake.
Next up this week, I have watched Bone Lake, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. Bone Lake is a movie I have wanted to check out for a while, since first coming across the trailer a few months ago, and now I have finally watched it. So what did I think of Bone Lake? I slightly dug this movie. Bone Lake did indeed keep me invested and interested all throughout the 1 hour 34 minute running time, and is a story about the ultimate test of a relationship. I would say not only do I class this as a horror movie, but I would also say this is deemed as an erotic thriller / psychological thriller as well. I mean, within the first couple of minutes into this film, we see a naked couple running through the woods, and we see the dude's ballsack get shot through with an arrow. There is a twist in this film which you will see towards the final act, which, as the audience, will leave you a little uneased and unsettled, because it sure did with myself. However, though, the resolution as to how this film does end and why it is getting 3 stars from me on Letterboxd does leave you, the audience watching this, feel rather satisfied. Well, it left me satisfied anyways. Do I recommend watching Bone Lake? I would say definitely do check this out. Don't sleep on this film for sure. And will I revisit and rewatch Bone Lake again? I think I definitely would be up for seeing this one again soon. Bone Lake is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now.
The Astronauts.
And finally this week, I have watched The Astronaut, which I gave 1.5 star over on Letterboxd. Kate Mara and Lawrence Fishburne stars in The Astronaut, which was released on digital platforms in late 2025. So, what did I think of The Astronaut? Yeah, I can tell this is a movie that went straight to digital. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because firstly, the running time does clock in at exactly 1 hour 30 minutes. Secondly, the CGI does seem rather bad when we see the creatures in this film. And the film itself appears to be unforgettable. Like, this is a film I can see myself not remembering within the next couple of days. The Astronaut is a movie that is classed as a sci-fi horror in terms of movie genre, and some would say there are slight hints to body horror in this film, especially with Kate Mara's character in this film, which I do appreciate. And for a guy who doesn't like feet, there is a little scene in this that made me feel a little squeamish. Do I recommend watching The Astronaut? Well, I would check this one out, but I would say this is a watch once and once only film. For me, is this going to be a film I would revisit and rewatch again in the future? Likely so. However, though, I am in no rush to watch this again anytime soon, though. The Astronaut is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now. And that is it for this week's episode of Steve's Movie Wrap-Up. Before I do go, actually, I've got to say this, right? So, I was recording the first review, which was obviously Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up. I got halfway through recording. I don't know what happened. It must have been through my watch. But basically, my phone started calling someone from my phone book. It must have been through my watch. It must have been, because their details came up on my watch. So, I don't know what button I pressed, I've got no idea, but it started calling someone on my phone, so I managed to hang up. But anyway, and then I had to stop the recording, and then I had to re-record that review again, of course, because that would have been very weird if you guys had just seen everything that had happened when I was mid-recording that, because you'd be like, hang on, what's going on? Anyway, fun little fact for this week's episode of the Movie Wrap-Up. Anyway, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what movies you guys have watched this week, whether it's old, new, in cinemas, on DVD, on Blu-ray, or on VHS. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you are new around here and you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to become a Steve-O. I will be back with your next YouTube video tomorrow, Monday, the 23rd of February 2026 at 4 PM UK time. That is going to be a weekly vlog episode. Hope you guys can tune in for that. But until then, though, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video. I'm now going to wait for a phone call from that random person that I called, by the way, and have to explain why I tried calling them by accident. Anyway, see you in my next YouTube video.